Hey everyone, me Kevin here. Here's a midday update as of December 10th on what's going on with stimulus checks, a vaccine as it relates to stimulus, because that's related now as well, and stocks as it's related to stimulus. It's all intertwined. Quick reminder, the holiday sale is up and running for the programs down below on building your wealth, so check that out and email me if you want a bundle coupon, kevin@mekevin.com. Okay, first, this morning we heard about Manchin and Pelosi making good progress, as if we haven't heard that before in the last 7 months, on a stimulus package, and that they were confident something could get done. Wall Street believed this so much that stocks actually went from being really down to rallying. We also heard reports that we could get a proposal agreed upon within the next 24 hours and that we could vote on this as early as Monday to Wednesday of next week. And keep in mind how this works is we do not actually have a stimulus bill right now. What we have are two different proposals. One is $908 billion and one is $916 billion. So we're close on the top line number, but all we have right now are sort of outline proposals. Well, since then, gotten a few updates. Politico, via the New York Times, just reported the following. Quote, Republicans and Democrats appear once again deadlocked on the scope and size of another economic aid package. CNBC ran a headline that Mitch McConnell has rejected the bipartisan proposal as the House adjourns until next week. Apparently, these headlines are coming because Mitch McConnell says he can't get enough support in his party to pass the $908 billion bipartisan package amongst Republicans in his party. Now, this is bogus, and I'll explain in just a moment, but remember that the $908 billion package is the bipartisan package that includes $300 per week in unemployment pay for individuals for up to 16 weeks. It extends the unemployment provisions for regular unemployment pay. It provides $25 billion in rental aid, $162 billion in state and local government aid, and $82 billion in school aid, which Steve Mnuchin says their $916 billion package is very similar to that, with the exception of rather than having the $300 per week in unemployment, it would be $600 stimulus checks. So the actual latest news is that Senator Mitch McConnell's staff have apparently told leadership offices in both parties. So basically the staff for Mitch McConnell goes around to Nancy Pelosi's office and Chuck Schumer's office and Kevin McCarthy's office. And while they kind of run around like ants, the reporters go, what's going on? What's going on? What's going on? That's how we get this insight, right? Apparently, Mitch McConnell sees, quote, no possible path for a bipartisan group of lawmakers to reach an agreement if state and local government funding is included and for $160 billion and liability protections are included together. That is, Mitch McConnell is doubling down on the argument that let's just remove those two things and do a stimulus bill without those two things. But Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi say, no way, Jose, we're not doing that. This is another step back on stimulus. This is just like literally the stupid, annoying teeter-totter that's going on here. So frustrating. Bill Gogland, a senior vice president of the Bipartisan Policy Center and former Republican staff director for the Senate Budget Committee, just a mouthful, he's working on Capitol Hill, and he says, quote, from everything I can pick up on, things are in a stalemate today, Thursday. But the desire is there to get something put together on both sides. It's always darkest before the sun rises. Nice little feigned optimism, I suppose. In response to this, Nancy Pelosi says, if we need more time, then we will take more time. But we have to have a bill and we cannot go home without it. And she added, we've been here before after Christmas. And she reiterated, like, you know that. You know we've been here before through Christmas. This means that Nancy Pelosi is suggesting that we could literally be negotiating this package through the end of the year, up until we actually start hitting some very real deadlines, like unemployment, regular unemployment expiring on the 26th of December, the day after Christmas, the regular unemployment pay ends, and the eviction protections begin to expire on the 31st of the month. This also comes after Mnuchin and Pelosi, well, suggested that they were making great progress, but again, Mitch McConnell says, nope, not working. Now, this is really odd because if we think about it, if we take either of the packages, it's not that freaking hard. If we take either of the packages and just put them on the floor of the Senate, which means to bring them up for a vote, I guarantee you they will pass. Why? Because there are at least 60 people with common sense brains in the Senate. But the problem is, here's the big problem, okay? It's politics. Mitch McConnell will not bring that package to the floor whichever bill it is, he's not going to bring it to the floor, even though he's the one who has the power to do it. He's basically the only one who has the power to do it. Democrats don't have enough votes to circumvent him, so Mitch McConnell has the power to do it. Mitch McConnell is not going to bring one of the bills to the floor until he knows that all of his party is going to vote for it. Why? Simple, because of January 5th, the Georgia runoff, which will determine control of the Senate for the next 2 years. In other words here, Mitch McConnell is worried that if he goes into the Georgia runoff and he just passed a stimulus bill 2 weeks before the Georgia runoff, 2 to 3 weeks before, that if his party was not united, Republicans might lose control and lose votes in the Georgia runoff, which would lead them to lose control of the Senate. So Mitch McConnell is wanting to go into the Georgia runoff with a united Republican Party. If half of Republicans are like, no way, Jose, I'm not voting for that dumb stimulus bill, and the other half is like, we got it. What are you talking about? How could you call it a dumb stimulus bill? Mitch McConnell's like, we'll just not vote on anything then, because he doesn't want to publicize that divisiveness. We all know if there's a stimulus package on the floor, 95% of Democrats are going to vote for it, whatever it is. 95% of Democrats are going to vote for it. And probably about half of Republicans are going to go for it. So collectively, we've got the votes to pass these freaking bills. We're one of them. But Mitch McConnell does not want a divided party. This means that it's entirely possible that basically we've got two options. Either Democrats just roll over and fold to Mitch McConnell, which is unlikely because that would require giving up state and local government funding and liability protections, which is possible. Or Democrats just completely fold on unemployment and go for the $916 billion package, which is also possible. But then that's going to show that Democrats were weak and that they rolled over onto Republicans' wishes, and that now Democrats are going into the January 5th runoff election in sort of a weaker position. Now, Kevin McCarthy, the Republican minority leader in the House, said this morning that, look, the reality is stimulus checks are desired by Republicans over doing unemployment boosts, and that if there's bipartisan consensus anywhere, it should be on the $916 billion package. And Kevin McCarthy believes, he's actually pretty confident that the $916 billion package is the one that's going to get passed, because he believes that stimulus checks go further and reach more people than unemployment pay does. Now, it's obvious that stimulus checks are going to reach more people, many more people than the unemployment checks would. But the unemployment checks are worth about $4,800. The stimulus checks are worth $600, plus however many children you have. Which, keep in mind, only child dependents actually get those stimulus checks, the $600. So college students and adult dependents, they all get screwed again. Either way, Republicans still, even when we look at both packages, and even though Mitch McConnell has basically signed off on the $916 billion bill, even though this, we're also hearing that Mitch McConnell is even worried about that, because both of the provisions include about $162 billion in state and local government aid, which many Republicans see as a bailout to Democratic-run cities and states. Democrats say, come on, like, we could just put some language in the bill that makes it so that the money is only going to COVID-related expenses, because Republicans are like, why are we bailing out the Democrat states? Why are they having trouble? It's not only the Democratic states, but that's obviously the argument that's being made. So this is all happening at the same time as we can't even get the regular omnibus package passed. Rand Paul is filibustering the NDAA, which that's the National Defense Authorization Act, and he is objecting to the president's ability to withdraw troops in Afghanistan. And usually the argument is that if you withdraw troops out of Afghanistan, while that sounds popular, you end up leaving a power vacuum in Afghanistan to where, the military officials in Afghanistan who frequently get trained by the United States now no longer have training and support. You create a power vacuum in the region, and what happens? You get the Taliban or whatever coming in, and now all of a sudden they take control of what the United States was providing power and support for as they overrun Afghani troops. So Rand Paul is saying, hey, you know what? Forget we're not even on stimulus yet. We're still talking about the Defense Act, and we're not doing this. So he's filibustering that right now. And remember the order we have to go through here. We need to have the National Defense Authorization Act has to pass, which that now unlocks the omnibus package from passing, which unlocks the stimulus package from passing. They all got to go together. And then this doesn't even mention the fact that what I talked about again this morning is that Donald Trump still wants to veto the NDAA unless he gets Section 230 of the Communication Decency Act overturned in this package. So you still got the Trump veto going on as well. So honestly, everything's just like a complete cluster F right now. We're going to talk about the impacts of this with stocks and the vaccine and stimulus in just a moment. But yeah, cluster F right now. Other Republicans, by the way, now in the House of Representatives, it's been a long day. Okay? Other Republicans in the House of Representatives are now giving press conferences saying, we are once again trying to use a discharge petition to bypass Nancy Pelosi and bring the PPP funding bill to the forefront of the House. So that way they could talk about the PPP instead of talking about ceiling fans. Yes, yes. They literally talked about legislation that has to do with safety and energy efficiency on ceiling fans. This is at the same time as the country is struggling in the midst of this pandemic. This is it's like, I don't even know what to say anymore. All right, so how does this tie in now to the vaccine and stocks? Well, the vaccine is actually very important because it is a pressure point for stimulus. So watch how this links together, okay? The sooner a vaccine is approved, the more pressure there is on state and local governments to administer and distribute the vaccine. But state and local governments say they need money from Congress to have the funding to set up the tents and the infrastructure to actually administer the vaccines. So, in a weird way, the sooner this freaking Pfizer vaccine gets emergency use approval from the FDA, the sooner Congress is like, oh crap, now everybody's looking at us to give state and local government funding. Well, right now, everybody's looking at the FDA, not at Congress. So the attention is on the FDA. And they've got like a live stream. Somebody could probably link this. You could Google it too. You could look at like PBS FDA live stream. Anyway, it's been like 7 hours, and I jumped around. I listened to a solid 20-minute segment of it, and there is a panel of FDA folks through Zoom interviewing this BioNTech lady who's got this really thick German accent. I love it because I was born in Germany. It's like super, like brings memories back of family in Germany. But anyway, it's almost sad because they're like yelling at each other because on one hand, you've got the FDA screaming, we need more data. We need to know about allergic reactions. Are people with peanut allergies going to get hurt having this? We need more data because we have to be able to give people confidence that this vaccine is not going to give them an allergic reaction. And then you've got other people going, well, come on. Like when people get a vaccine, you have medical staff there with epinephrine for allergic reactions. This is why when you get a vaccine, they're like, okay, sit here for 15 minutes while we observe you. In case you start choking up, here's your shot, your EpiPen, your adrenaline shot. So much drama is going on with the vaccine and getting approval for this, and that could actually cause more of a delay for the stimulus package getting done. The FDA wants more information for pregnant women, for children, for seniors. We've got doctors saying, hey, we need more data. Pfizer saying, look, we've got data. We just did this trial with 20,000 people. We don't need to delay a vaccine. We need the vaccine now. And then the FDA people are like, yep, we agree. We need the vaccine now. And then it goes back to the FDA people again. And they're like, but we need more data. It's everything right now is just an absolute disaster. Like this is apparently how our country works. It's so bureaucratic and it's such a freaking disaster. So what you can see though is the sooner we hear that this Pfizer drug is approved, the more pressure there is on Congress. Hopefully the more pressure there is on those Republicans to get state and local government funding approved. Because if Republicans are united behind state and local government funding, this is how we can kind of put this disastrous pyramid back together, so to speak. If Republicans get united on state and local government funding, then McConnell can have a united Republican staff or caucus on a stimulus package. Then we can decide, is it the 908 or is it the 916, and actually have full Republican support and full Democratic support, or at least 90 to 95% support, so that no one side looks lopsided going into the Georgia 5th runoff election. They can get together and actually pass this bill. The problem is with this big setback that's going on today, now it's like, okay, great. Well, how are we going to get, the verbiage done on time to actually get this done next week? And this is why Nancy Pelosi is saying we could honestly be here through Christmas. On stocks are surprisingly sensitive to these stimulus negotiations right now. It could be because some of the valuations are a little frothy right now. But this morning, we were literally in a hole. Then Manchin comes out and says, hey, good progress on stimulus. Boom, stocks shoot up. We were only in the hole for like 15 minutes. McConnell rejects this bipartisan deal. Stocks immediately started pulling back again. So you actually have this like hypersensitivity to what's going on in stimulus negotiations with stocks right now. Now, I personally recommend if you're investing in stocks, you're considering investing in stocks, make sure you're trying to get in on some of those fall opportunities, those buying opportunities. So this morning, for example, we had a lot of red and now we've got a lot of green. I don't like buying when the market is so heavily green. This is Webull, by the way. They will give you 4 free stocks if you deposit $100. And look, I mean, it's wonderful that Lemonade is up 14%, but I can't go in here and buy Lemonade or Twitter at 9% up or Twilio or Peloton or Fastly. I can't buy at these prices. It's so high right now. On the other hand, you've got some things that are down today, but a lot of these are just EV stocks that have ran up substantially in the past. So what I would say is, here's my sort of outlook is from now to honestly the end of the month, we could have mass volatility because of the uncertainty around this stimulus package. And if you have not invested into stocks yet, wait for a painful day. It could be tomorrow. It could be, next week. But right now, everything seems to be 2 steps forward and then literally 2 steps back. It's so frustrating and annoying that everything is so incapable of progressing right now. But that is the complete update that we've got as of right now. If you've appreciated this, consider sharing the update. Folks, I appreciate you being here as always. Thank you for joining me on a live stream. I almost just knocked over this. That would have been bad. Topo Chico, folks. Thank you so much. I'm going to drink this now because I've been talking for a while. Appreciate y'all. We'll see you next time.